Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and all glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Arachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the hopeful elect tabernacle of David, scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. And this lesson that the elder apostle Tahar did, it sparked me to do a response. We're starting to see that paradigm shift, especially since, DJ Trump, Donald Trump is in office, and he's causing this mass hysteria. And he's got these people, concerned, worried. People are not too optimistic about the near future under this second Trump administration. So, with this adversity that's starting to set in, women are starting to revert back to their old nature, if you will. Some of them are starting to understand, they're starting to get it, that you actually do need a man. Some women even willing to, share a man if needs be. I think there was another video that I saw that brothers had shared, and it was an N-dub. She, you could tell she came up, rough, probably from, some hood in a major city somewhere. But her overall idea, when you heard her, talking, you can tell that, she was reverting back to, their old, natural role of, submissiveness. In that video, she was basically saying that she's willing to basically get in line with a man because heterosexual, masculine men are hard to come by now. You got a lot of DL dudes out there. You got a lot of men that they're completely effeminate. You got a lot of men that are incarcerated. Jake being the highest in homicide rate, even though we're the smallest a percent when it comes to the ethnic, ratio groups in America. So it was like she computed all that in her mind and said, you know what? I need to be realistic. Give me a hetero masculine dude, and if he happens to have a woman, then tell her she need to scoot over and let me slide in with them. Let me join the team, so to speak. So you're starting to have women that's starting to kind of come back around, and this is all part of the beginning of a paradigm shift, where things are going to start changing because we're transitioning from one age to another age. Like it says in Second Ezra, the 6th chapter, it says Esau is the end of the world and Jacob's the beginning of it that follows. All right, so these times that we're coming in, which is very perilous, this is all part of the times where Esau's world, this is his empire, this is his kingdom, is beginning to pass away. So things start to change. Now, it's changing for the worse spiritually because, moral decay is exactly what happens during the fall of a dominant empire. All right, it's, just this overall demonic behavior, immorality, unbelief, incredulity, all that is at an all-time high. But that's what comes with the fall of an empire, all right, during the transition, okay? But you're starting to see certain things also come back. Like, certain women, they starting to see it, they coming back to their senses. So the Apostle Tahar was he's going into that in his video. Now what I'm gonna do is I think I got like around here. And I'm gonna just try to add to the apostles' lesson. And hopefully y'all are edified. So let me play this real quick.
Old path. Let's see what happens if I put the scriptures, everything's a cycle. Everything's going back to the ancient world, man.
Right. Like I can just quote it without even going to it. Ecclesiastes 1:9. That which have been is what shall be, and that which shall have and what shall be have already been done. And there is no new thing under the sun. So that which have been is that which shall be. So that cycle, history repeats, things go in full circle. Everything is cycled, man. So that same path, that we once followed, the ancient path, is gonna start to return. And I mean, it's already that the vibration of it has already been restored in the earth through the men of the Lord. We're the ones that's restoring, those paths, like it says in Isaiah the 58th chapter, the repairing of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. This is supposed to be the path for all the nation of Israel. This knowledge, this wisdom, this understanding. But a lot of our people with their rebellious attitude, they object because they're under the influence of this modern world, the Western way, Western culture. Okay. It's why our women think the way they think and the way they are, and the same thing with the men. But we're gonna return and go right. We're gonna go back to the old path, and it's gonna be made new again. It's basically gonna be like a refreshing. All right, and I'm gonna get the precept, but let's finish listening to the elder apostle.
Give me a second. Let me see if I can find this. Let me put this in. I can't think of the precept where it's at exactly. I can't even think of how it's said. But let me just try this. I know path, old path. Let's see what happens if I put old path. Old path. Is that right? Paths. Let's see what comes up. I'll find it. Just can't think of the exact the whole quote. Okay. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Jeremiah 6 verse 16. Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths. Where is the good way? The good way is going back to the ancient way and walk therein. The kingdom, we're going to go back to the ancient way. All those laws that's written in the 5 books of Moses, the law of concubines, the law of marriageable status, the law of handmaidens, the law of bondmen and bondwomen, the law of men having multiple wives and having multiple concubines. That's the old paths.
Khan. And that's what we're gonna go back to. The kingdom is gonna be established, and the law, statutes, and commandments is what's gonna govern the world to come, the new world. That's why it's gonna be a new heaven and a new earth. But it's gonna be ruled by our old principles, the old way. That's gonna become the standard of the earth again. So it's gonna be something that's old made new again. All right. So let me grab something real quick. Let's go to Deuteronomy. Was it 32? Yeah, Deuteronomy 32:7, and it says, remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will shew thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. All right, and we had a legacy, you know, where we lived in righteousness. We had a order set up, a structure that was well ordered. We had government, and we had the priesthood, which now we have a newfound order of the priesthood, which is under the order of Melchizedek, wherein our Lord Yahushai, being the high priest, right? And through him, we're made priest. And when Yahushai comes back to take his rightful throne on earth, the law is going to become standard, and we're going to be the enforcers of that law on the rest of the nations, making us a kingdom of priests. And we're going to show them the old way, So everything is going to come back. Okay. Let's go to Deuteronomy. Was it 30? Yeah, I'll just read these first few verses, because it's talking about the restoration. What does it mean to restore something, right? Let's look up that word restore or restoration. Restore, and it says to bring back a previous right, practice, custom, or situation, reinstate. See that? To return or someone or something to a former condition, place, or position. To similar words, reinstate, put back, replace, bring back. So the Most High is going to bring back the old way, the ancient way, the righteous way, which is our law, statutes, and commandments. It's going to be reestablished when Yahushai comes back. All right. Because under Esau's rule, under his, authority, man, everything is just out of course. The scriptures say the wicked walk on every side when the vilest man is exalted. The law's slack and judgment never goes forth. Therefore, the wicked compass the righteous. So it's been one-sided under this current authority. Because Esau, he's the man of sin. He's the man of lawlessness. So that's why everything is totally out of order, man. And that's why we suffer. This is why we groan. This is why we dealing with infirmities. This is why it's so much death and decay and languish on the earth. Because like it says in Isaiah the 24th chapter, the earth is defiled under the inhabitants because they didn't change the ordinances, transgressed the laws, changed the ordinances, broken the everlasting covenant. Women don't respect men, disorder in marriage, disease. All right. The nations having their way, our women being liberated by the serpent to do as they please, and they're abusing themselves. The men are destroyed, effeminate, docile. But we're going to be restored back to our old way, our old paths, man. Where the men are going to go back to being the men, and women are going to go back to being women. All this confusion is going to pass away when the Lord basically destroys this world and sets up the new. All right. So this is Deuteronomy 30:1. It says, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all nations, which that's what we do. All right. Where all the brothers got camp set up, and we got the 12 tribe sign out there, and Jay come by and ask, I see my nationality on that sign. What is this all about? And we go into it, and then we show them how we identify based on, the conditions, the curses that befall us as a people. Why we're in these conditions. Why does it seem like the other nations are prospering over us? Why all these different things, has occurred. So we go into the blessing and the curse, and we getting ready to be blessed again. And we getting ready to be pulled away from these curses. Right now, Jacob's under that curse, which is why things doesn't go smooth for our people, the so-called Negro, Hispanic, and Native American. It says, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind, meaning thou shalt remember, right? Among all the nations, whether the Lord thy power have driven thee. In the place of your captivity, you shall remember yourselves, right? You shall think upon his name, and shall return unto the Lord thy power, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy power will turn thy captivity. And that's what the Lord's getting ready to do. He's going to break that yoke from off of us, and we will no longer have to be under the authority of these nations, primarily the Edomite. All right. And like we always read in Isaiah, the 14th chapter, we're going to take our captives, whose captives we were, and we're going to basically put them in captivity. So it's going to be a paradigm shift. Everything's going to change. All right. Under his rule, it was, you was free to be wicked. He gave you the license to sin. So you can be shameless and be proud and not think of anything. You could be careless, shameless in your behavior and not have to worry about nothing. All right. Babylon was that sinful kingdom. The sins piled up to the heavens. This is why the Lord's going to make an example out of Babylon like he did Sodom and Gomorrah, because they had the same attitude and behavior. Very proud. And 2/3 of our people that fell in love with this place and had pleasure in wickedness, they're going to be destroyed right along with this world, but they're going to come back on the other side, and they're going to be renewed. Because the Lord's going to change our nature from that stony heart to that heart of flesh. That's when the new covenant is going to be established. All right. So once that happened, Jake is not going to have no problem going back to the old ancient way, because it's going to be in him. All right. According to the new covenant. So basically the new heaven and the new earth is going to be ruled by the old principle, the old way. All right. It says, and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, because we were scattered. All right. The chariots are going to come down with Yahushua, the angels, and they're going to gather the elect from the four winds of the earth, right? Whether the Lord thy God has scattered thee, if any of thine be driven out to the utmost parts of heaven, and we're on the other side of the world now, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. And we're going to get delivered, come up hither. Revelation 18:4, Revelation 11, and 12. And the Lord, Isaiah 26 and 20. Come thou, enter thou into thy chambers, until the indignation be overpast. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And we're going to live basically forever, because we're not going to go off after that. According to the new covenant, we're going to be programmed to do what is right. So that old path is going to be in us. We're going to walk that old way. It's going to come back, man. So our women, right now, they being free up under this devil, they're going to object to the old way. That's why, you talk to these women now, and, you ask them about marriage and being up under the man and submitting, they're going to speak very ill of that idea. They're going to think that, they're going to have no type of liberty. They're going to basically lose their freedom, to basically gad abroad. They're going to feel like they're going to go into slavery. They're going to be oppressed. They don't want to be controlled by no man, because they feel like, I can move on my own. I can make my own money. I can, if I want to get with this guy and then I get tired of him, and then I could just move on and get with this dude. This is how our women been living under this current order, this current setup, which is really ain't a order. This is straight up chaos. This is disorder. So, no, the Lord's going to reestablish order on the earth. All right. And you women are going to have no choice. But in a new environment, and the Lord, changing us, your mind is going to be different. It's going to be new, So it ain't going to be, you ain't going to think evil of being the wife of one husband. You're not going to think that, you're being oppressed, when you're literally going to be the wife of a king, a man that's going to have authority, a man that's going to have substance, a man that's going to have, a righteous morale, who's going to be governed by the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High. We're going to be a holy nation again. So you're not going to think the way you thought in this world, when you listen to the damn serpent and allowed him to poison your mentality. And next thing you know, after you listen to him, now you're leading the race in abortion, divorce. Despite being the least married, leading in sexually transmitted diseases, abortion rates, children out of wedlock, so on and so forth. Single parent households. So yeah, man. So we're gonna prosper, once we go back to the old path, the old way. So let me go back to the video, and then we'll get some more.
It said, "Thus saith Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest." Ultimately, the kingdom is rest, right? For your souls. What's going to rest our souls? Those two things rest your soul: death and the kingdom of heaven.
Con. Because right now, what keeps our mind not at rest is, the fear of death. Not us in the know and the truth. It doesn't really do that to us per se, because we understand the process of death and its purpose. But people in this world in general, they fear death, and I think that's in the Apocrypha, where it talks about how the anticipation of it, it puts fear on you. So therefore, you tend not to rest. Was it Sirach 40? Yeah, Sirach 40 and 1, it says, "Great travail is created for every man, and a heavy yoke is upon the sons of Adam, from the day that they go out of their mother's womb to the day that they return to the mother of all things. That's why it says in those that Job 14, a man that is born of a woman is of let me get that. Job 14. And this is the sentence over all men, that we got to come down on the earth and everything is cursed, and you got to, labor and work. He told, when he basically said, by the sweat of your brow, show you, basically eat. So you're going to have to labor and work. So you ain't going to be able to rest. And you're going to have to go through that until you transition. You go back to the spiritual realm. This is Job 14:1. It says, man that is born of a woman is of few days and full of trouble. All right. So we got to go through that great travail from the time that we're born into this world until the time we leave, which is why when you leave, you're at rest. You're at rest from all of the travail that you go through on earth. But in the kingdom, it ain't going to be travail, because we're going to be at rest. We're going to be relieved from the calamities and the anticipation of death, being under these chains of darkness, the bondage of corruption, being tempted to sin. We're going to be, rested from that. It ain't going to be a worry anymore. And you don't have to worry about, getting old, and then now your mental faculties is going to start to collapse. You're going to develop a sickness, and then you're going to just end up dying off. None of these things are going to be a worry. So our mind is going to have rest in the kingdom. All right. It says their imagination of things to come and the day of death trouble their thoughts and cause the fear of the heart. And when you do that, it's hard for you to chill. We ain't got to fear the anticipation of death, so we're gonna be straight. When your mind is distressed, that means that your mind isn't at ease. Is not at rest. Your mind is constantly, in anxiety. Got all type of worries and concerns and thoughts, and it'll wear you down. And the kingdom, that's going to be gone. It says, from him that sitteth on a throne of glory, unto him that is humbled in earth and ashes, from him that weareth purple and a crown, unto him that is clothed with a linen frock. All right. It says, wrath and envy, trouble and unquietness, fear of death and anger and strife, and in the time of rest upon his bed, his night sleep, do change his knowledge. Okay. A little or nothing is his rest, and afterward he is in his sleep, as in a day of keeping watch, troubled in the vision of his heart, as if he were escaped out of a battle. And that's what it's like. But in the kingdom, it's going to be like we woke up out of that, like we woke up from a nightmare, a long ass dream you had. Was that Psalms 80? Not Psalms 86. We're like them that dreamed. Let me find that. No, it's not here. Hold on. Let me bear with me while I look for it. But scripture basically says we were like one that dreamed. Mm-mm. There it is. Here we go. Sometimes you might draw a blank, looking for certain scriptures. You know what's in there, but you'll tend to forget sometimes where they can actually be. When you first start in this thing, and you remember every precept, you remember where every precept is at, and later down the line, it doesn't come to you as clear, but it's there though. Anyway, Psalms 126:1, it says, "When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion," which I read in Deuteronomy the 30th chapter. The Lord promised that from the beginning that He's going to restore Israel and turn back our captivity. That's when He's going to take that yoke up off of us. It says we were like them that dream. All right, we were like them that dream. Like, damn, this all really happened. We caught total hell, man. We was going off. We was really committing these type of iniquities. We was really, we was lower than the low. We were straight up mortals. But in the kingdom, we're gonna be immortal. But we're gonna we actually were mortals, man. We were corruptible. Everything was just the earth was out of course. We had these heathens ruling over us, these disgusting, filthy ass nations, man. So yeah, man, that's what it's gonna be like. Okay. So that was just to back up the elder apostle Tahar's point. Okay. So let me run it back.
See and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest. Ultimately, the kingdom is rest, right? For your souls. What's going to rest our souls? Those two things rest your soul: death and the kingdom of heaven. But they said,
yeah, in the kingdom, we're gonna have rest because everything's gonna be back in its rightful order, and we're gonna have the law, statutes, commandments into us. Let me get the precept in Isaiah, where it basically talks about this is the refreshing. Isaiah 28. And it was at 10. I'll start at 9. Isaiah 28:9, it says, "Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast." You start off with the basics, desiring the sincere milk of the word, so that you can grow, right? Growing in the understanding. It says, "For precept must be upon precept," and precept just means command, an instruction, a commandment. These scriptures, these are basically commandments. All right. It says precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people. All right. And our people, they understand us because clearly this truth is going out in, different languages. So our people know the truth and they're going to be held accountable. All right. To whom he said, "This is the rest wherewith you may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing." Yet they would not hear. Just like the precept that he's reading right here, where Jeremiah 6:16, where he said, to go, seek the old paths, where's the good way, and walk therein, and that, you find rest for your souls. But they said, "We will not walk therein." And that's Jake and their open rebellion. So as long as Jake is in this condition of, being rebellious, stubborn, and not wanting to go back to their order, you're not going to rest. You're going to still continue to be cursed. You know, you're going to be burdened with all these different things that we have to deal with. You know, one part of the curse is a sorrow of the mind. You're not going to have any rest at all. At least in Yahushua, he said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Because with the scriptures, you get to understand which actually comforts you. While we're in this hell, while we're in captivity, we're getting comfort through this understanding. And you know, anticipating that we're gonna eventually get actual rest. You know, where we're gonna you know, be lifted up, we're gonna be exalted, we're gonna reign under Yahushua, and we're gonna enforce the law. That's supposed to be our rest. Now remember, the scriptures say that talks about in Genesis the lawgiver. Let me get this real quick. It says that he may cause the weary to rest. The word is nawach, and it says to rest, settle down, to repose, to have rest, be quiet. All right, to repose. What does it mean to repose? And it says a state of rest, sleep, or tranquility. Right? Now, when you go back to Genesis, it talks about that lawgiver. Genesis 49 and verse 10. It says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. And we're being gathered under Yahushai. So Yahushai would be the gathering of the people through the word. The word is what's gathering us. And Yahushai, he is the word, right? So Shiloh, what does it mean? And it makes sense why the Lord said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Basically, you're going to rest in Yahushai. Shiloh, Shayalah, and it says tranquil. Shiloh, an epithet of the Messiah. He whose it is that which belongs to him, tranquility. See that? So we're going to have rest and tranquility, peace under Yahushai. That's why in Isaiah 9, you know, it talks about that government, you know, being upon his shoulder. Yep. Isaiah 9 and 6, it says, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. Right? He's going to have that mountain that he's going to have lifted up. All right. Over all the other mountains, which represent these other governments, these other rulers. All right. That's why in Revelation, it talks about how he's going to have many crowns, because he's going to dethrone all these other kings and rulers. It says, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end, because Israel is going to be a world without end. There's not going to be no end to our rule, our reign. All right. All the nations are going to be up under the children of Israel for all the rest of eternity. All right. And upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom to order it. Why? Because it's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. So everything is going to be governed based off of what? The old path, the old way. That's how it's going to be ordered. All right. Basically, it's going to be a new order. Now, I want to get this real quick. This is 2nd Ezra 13, and this is in the Good News translation. Just talk about when the Lord comes back and how he's going to have the war with these nations, and he's going to totally destroy them, annihilate them. He's going to liquidate them with the chariots, the beam of light that's going to come from them chariots, them laser beams. All right, and then he's going to also gather his elect that survives. All right, that goes through the perils because they walked in faith, they had works, of their faith, and they were preserved from the said perils. This is 2nd Ezra 13 and verse I'll read verse 25. The point is at 26. It says, "This is the meaning of the vision. The man you saw coming up out of the sea," which you also read about in Revelation 17, right, represents the one whom the Most High, God the Most High, has kept ready for many ages. Right, Yahushua been sitting on the throne, on the right hand of the throne in the spiritual realm for quite some time now. He will free the world he created. Right, he's going to free us up under this current captivity, this current power structure. All right, we're going to be free of this man's his dismantling of the earth. That's why it says in Sirach, the 10th chapter, he that is profitable, the Lord's going to set over this earth one that is profitable. Because right now it's destroyed. All right, this dragon, this eagle, this snake, this serpent, he did a lot of damage. So the world is going to be freed, from the animals, the fowls, the trees, and his people, his chosen people. He says he will free the world he created and establish the new order for those who survive. So he's going to establish the new order for them that survive. What is that new order? We're going to go back to the old way, the old path. So that means that you're going to have the governing body, all right, that government. They're going to basically, which, you could read Revelation 21. It talks about the New Jerusalem that was adorned, for the bridegroom, that they're going to be ordered. And when they come down, they're going to order the rest of the earth under the command of Yahushua. The whole world is going to be ordered when Yahushua comes to take the kingdom. It says the saints shall take the kingdom and they shall reign forever and ever. So that's how it's going to go from the old world, which is the world of Esau, to the world of Jacob. Jacob's the end of the world, and it's like Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob's the beginning that follows. So it's going to be a new order, and it's going to be ruled by the old path, the old way, which is the law, statutes, and commandments. And that's how we're going to rest. You see that? You even had back during the time of Nazi Germany, right before World War II, where Hitler was establishing a new order for Europe. You can look that up. Let me see. It's a rock band. No, it's yeah, New Order Nazism, right? It says the New Order in German, Nordnung of Europe collectively refers to various political and social concepts Nazi Germany sought to impose on German-occupied Europe and beyond. Planning for the New Ordnung commenced prior to World War II, but Adolf Hitler first proclaimed a European New Order. So even Esau had his little new order. All right, they always talking about a new order or new world order. Well, when Yahushua comes and set up the kingdom, That's going to be the righteous new world order. All right, where everything's going to return back to is rightful nature and its rightful order that the Most High set up. All right, going back to the beginning. All right, where everything was good. When they made the heavens and the earth and they made everything in its order and the Alahayim said, and it is good. It's going to go back to that. Women are going to desire men. Men are going to desire women. And starting amongst the sons of God, the children of Israel. All right, we're going to be, sons and daughters of the Most High. We're going to be gods on the earth. All right, we're not going to go off. We're not going to sin. So the new order is going to be what? The law going forth out of Zion. Let's go to Isaiah, the 2nd chapter. Isaiah 2:1. It says, in a word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house, the Masharah, the government, shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And they're going to have no choice, because the Lord said, ask of the heathen, and I shall ask of me, and I shall give you the heathen for an inheritance. It also says that if the nation that will not serve us, they shall perish. So they're gonna have no choice but to flow, to our government to be governed. All right, that's going to be the standard. That's going to be the rule. All right, the law. It says, and many people shall go and say, come ye and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, which is what? The old path, the ancient ways. And we will walk in his path. So you're gonna learn how to live righteously on the earth, so that your days can be prolonged. You can't eat blood. You're not gonna eat abomination. So you're gonna eat according to the dietary law, so that the water can stay clean, so that the earth can stay clean. You're gonna leave the ecosystem the way it's supposed to be, because under this devil setup, species are endangered, damn near extinct, because of this devil and his recklessness and his carelessness. All right. There ain't going to be no adultery, because the law is going to be in effect. So women are not going to be dipping off. You're not going to be able to get in a woman's DM and, she sneaking off behind her husband's back. None of that will exist or fly in the world to come, because the law is going to be enforced. Women are going to accept a man having more than one wife, concubines, etc. Okay. Our people are going to be, brotherly. It's going to be, real affection and love for one another. All these things are going to return, man. We're going to be hospitable. And we're going to teach the nations, and that's going to reflect the world. That's why it's going to be a new heaven and a new earth wherein dwells righteousness. It says, and we will walk in his paths, for out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Okay. And that old way that we used to be, we're not going to even, the ways of this current world, we're not going to even, let me go to it. Isaiah 65:17, it says, for behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered nor come to mind. All right. So even the way we think today, especially Jake in the world, man. Jake could have multiple wives, but they don't understand the purpose of why you would have multiple women. Jake just get a bunch of women and just to run through them. And that's not just the sole purpose of having, multiple women. You had the women that were there to help build a legacy, and you would become the progenitor of a bloodline. And like it says in was it the end of the 60th chapter, he would make one. He would make a one as a strong nation. So you did it for nation building. You used her to be fruitful and multiply, and your sons will learn the law, statutes, commandments, the instructions. He would also learn a skill so that he would be well off, once he put in that work. The daughters were groomed up to be wives, to be mothers, to be helpmeets. Everybody's going to go back to their old purpose again. And the way that you used to be, yeah. that's in the past. That's old. The Lord is going to forgive us, and basically all of the nation of Israel. He's not going to bring up those sins anymore. It's going to be forgiven, once Jake is changed. But everything is going to be ordered. And then when you go to 1 Corinthians 15, it talks about that order, starting with Yahushua, the first fruit, and then his at his coming. Was that 15 and 23? Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15 and 23, I'll read it in the NLT. It says, but every man in his order to, but there is an order to this resurrection. Yahushua was raised as the first of the harvest. Then all who belong to Yahushua will be raised when he comes back. After that, the end will come when he will return the kingdom over to the Most High, the Father, having destroyed every ruler and authority and power. That's when all these nations are going to go down, right? We will not be under no democracy, all right? Like, there ain't going to be no World Economic Forum. There ain't going to be no United Nations, all right? For Yahushua must reign until he humbles all his enemies beneath his feet. And the last enemy to be destroyed is death. For the scriptures say the Most High has put all things under his authority. Of course, when it says all things are under his authority, that does not include the Most High himself, who gave Yahushua his authority. Showing you that there's a difference. That these are two separate entities. They're not one and the same. All the dominion, all the preeminence that Yahushua will have, he's still going to be under his Father. For you slow of heart, you slow belly Christians out there. It says, then when all these things are under his authority, the Son will put himself under the Most High's authority, so that the Most High, who gave his Son authority over all things, will be utterly supreme over everything, everywhere. And we're going to be the dominating ruling class nation on earth. So our women, they're like, our women, they're going to be more than happy to be up under us, especially under that order, under that type of authority, under that level of control over the world. They ain't gonna even cross their mind about, man, I gotta share. What if he spends more time with this one or that? You ain't gonna even think about that, man. Everybody's gonna be enjoying the kingdom. We're gonna appreciate why the Most High set it up the way he did. All right. So, this lesson right here, man, I was like, hey, let me do a response, man. The Spirit, sparked me to do it. And I hope this lesson was edifying. I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. Shalom.